Hey, what's up guys? Thanks for stopping by the channel. So in this review, we're going to be checking out the Christopher Ward C60 Trident-Pro. This is the 600-meter diver, and as you can see, this one has a really nice white but subtle wave dial, as well as a really nice high gloss red ceramic bezel insert. Now, I do want to mention this is one of the Pro 600 divers that has the old Christopher Ward logo near the 12 o'clock position. The newer Mark III models have it closer to the 9 o'clock position here, but I still think there's a lot of value to be had in the older models. Christopher Ward does a really good job with their dive series of watches. So let's talk about the dimensions of this watch really quick. You're looking at 43 millimeters across the case. Lug tip to lug tip here, it's about 50 millimeters, and you can see how these lugs just get truncated near the edges here. So it's really from this end to this end here to get 50. Case thickness is just shy of 14 millimeters to flat sapphire crystal with anti-reflective application. And then the lug gap here for the supplied bracelet is 22 millimeters, tapering down to 20 at the clasp. So let's talk about the dial features first. I do like the clean layout that Christopher Ward went with this white colorway. It's got, again, a very subtle wave pattern, which you can only see at slightly different angles rather than looking on it straight on. And then you have really nice applied baton markers for the hour markings, and you have the double baton near the 12. You kind of got that spade style hour hand and more of a sword style minute hand there. And I do like the counterpoint trident on the second hand, and then you have the lollipop tip there, which is lume filled. And I will say that Christopher Ward did a really nice job bordering the date aperture at the 3 o'clock position too. And it's integrated fairly well because you kind of have like a half baton there, so you still get some sort of balance of symmetry going on. And you do have Swiss made printed right near the very bottom of the dial, just below the 6 o'clock baton there. And you can actually see that there's a running minute track, and where each of the hour batons are, you can see there's just actually a nice green accent along the minute track there. So very nice attention to detail. Now if we move away from the dial and look at the bezel, you can see that the hatch marks from 1 to 15 are very clearly laid out. And then you just have 10-minute indexes for the rest of the bezel. Very nice coin edge style bezel, and it's knurled very well. This bezel is 120 click unidirectional. The detents are very audible, but as you move from one click to the next, it's very distinct. It feels extremely positive. Bezel alignment is great, and really no play whatsoever. So you'll notice that the triangle has a luminous pip at the 12 o'clock here, and I'm going to throw up a lume shot of this watch right now because I think they did a very good job using Swiss C3 Superluminova by my guess, and it's extremely evenly applied. It's actually extremely potent on the handset and on the luminous pearl. And it's not as intense on the actual baton hour markers, but I think it's because they are partially bordered with those nice silver surrounds there. Overall though, the lume does last a long time, and I'm very pleased with how it performs in low light situations. Now powering this watch is either ETA 2824-2 or the Sellita SW200 equivalent. I couldn't get a direct answer on that, but I've had no issues with either. Both workhorse Swiss movements with about a 40-hour power reserve, 25 or 26 joules depending on what you got inside there. It's hacking and hand winding, and if you unscrew the screw down crown here, you can manually wind this movement. Pulling it out to position 1 is for the quick date set, and if you pull it all the way out, you can actually hack and stop the seconds hand. Rethreading the crown is extremely easy to do, and I like how large the crown is. Note that the Christopher Ward old logo is deeply etched into the crown, and you have some kind of truncated sheer crown guards there. With respect to finishes, you can see that the sides of the case here are done in a nice brushed finish. And then you have high polish on the tops of the lugs here. And then moving on to the bracelet. So you essentially have, it's an oyster style, high polished center links, brushed on the outer sides here. And then you have individual links here. For this model of Christopher Ward Trident-Pro, they use a pin and collar system, which I have no problems with. It's very secure, but when you size it, you have to tap out the pin, and then there's a collar and a center link that you have to ensure you don't lose when you resize it. Christopher Ward clasp is kind of a brushed and polished finish. You do have the Christopher Ward logo. Very nice dual trigger, twin trigger release here. And then you can see that the swing arm here is all milled out. Now if you look at the bottom of the clasp, notice that they use a 2-post system, so you actually have to push both of these together to release it, and it's extremely secure. And then on the underside here, you do actually have a toolless micro adjustment system, kind of similar to a less refined glide lock system that Rolex would use. So you can actually just push that trigger there, and then you can actually get incremental on-the-fly adjustment, which is really nice for ensuring you get a really good fit. So you can see solid end links to this bracelet here, high polished case back, but then in the center you have like an oil pressed etched in Trident, and then you have the Trident-Pro 600 meter and ceramic for the bezel insert. Note that the case is screwed down, offering it an incredible 600 meters of water resistance. And here's how the Trident-Pro 600 sits on my 19 centimeter circumference wrist, or about 7.5 inches. I think with the supplied bracelet, the clasp balances out the head of the watch quite nicely, so it does stay planted on your wrist. You do feel a bit of heft to this watch. Sized up for my wrist, this comes in at about 195 grams, but it is a slightly thicker and bulkier watch, just so you have that 600 meter water resistance. The sapphire crystal here is about 3.5 millimeters in thickness. So are there any negative aspects to this watch before you consider purchasing it? Well, I did mention that this watch does have a bit of heft to it, and some people will notice the case thickness, even though it is around 14 millimeters. I do think for getting a 600 meter dive watch, the case thickness and heft is warranted. The only other minor gripe I have is just with the finishing and having high polish on the top parts of this watch. I just noticed that it's extremely reflective in the sunlight. So on a sunny day, or if you're driving in the car or something like that, it does tend to put a lot of reflections back into your eye, or look a little more blingy than it really needs to be for a tool watch. But other than that, guys, you can typically find these on the used market for less than 1,000 Canadian dollars. And I will say I have reviewed a past Christopher Ward Trident that was the non-pro 300 meter diver. And the notable upgrades to this is obviously the 600 meter water resistant rating, as well as that gorgeous ceramic bezel insert. And I will mention that as Christopher Ward continues to release the Trident series, they're doing a really good job. I really like the Mark IIIs that are currently out right now, but they are more pricey. So I think if you're looking for more of an affordable alternative, definitely try and pick up the older variations of the Christopher Ward Trident Pros. They're still extremely great value for money. So that about wraps up this review, guys. Please let me know in the comments below what you guys think of this particular Christopher Ward Trident Pro 600. And as always, I'll catch you guys in the next video.